friend, 各位师兄大家阿弥陀佛. Venerable Master and Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture tonight. Today is October 20th. We're here in Berkeley, California, and we're on the cusp between Libra and Scorpio. I'm sure you all knew that. And the first winter storm of the season is bearing down on the coast. So break out your umbrella and your waterproof shoes, because they say Monday we're going to see some rain, and if you live in the tall mountains, you're going to get snowed on, so that's a good thing. But if you're driving, please drive carefully, because when that rainwater hits the slippery summer of tire tread on the highways, the cars like that when you hit the brakes. So it takes about 2 or 3 rainstorms to wash that tire residue and oil away, so we get some traction on the highways. So now that I've totally alarmed you and put you in a state of terror, we will employ our anti-terror methods, which is to say, invoke the name of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and resume serenity, get back to peace of mind through chanting. It's right there on the cover of your sutra text. Those are the names of the sutra that we're lecturing on, and the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who are the speakers of that text. So if you'd like to, if you're comfortable, please put your palms together and we'll chant together. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yen Ji Hua Yen Hai Wei Fo Pu Sa Na Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yen Ji Hua Yen Hai Wei Po Pu Sa Na Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yen Ji Hua Yen Hai Wei Po Pu Sa Na Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yen Ji Hua Yen Hai Wei Po Pu Sa Na Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yen Ji Hua Yen Hai Wei Po Pu Sa Na Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yen Ji Hua Yen Hai Wei Po Pu Sa. We've got a really full program tonight, so I'm going to jump right into our text. And welcome if you're joining us online from wherever you might be. Please turn to page 70 and 71 in your text. 70 and 71. There's lots of empty available bowing benches up front. If anybody is courageous enough to move up, don't be shy. Nobody is. Cool. Okay, we're down on the next to last paragraph. The next to last stanza. The Chinese is 从出法义知得佛. Okay, so if you're counting, go to the bottom and take 2 lines as 1 line and go 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 from the bottom. 4th double line from the bottom. Now, this is the part of the text that was chanted once upon a time. It came with a melody, a chant tone, they call it. So we're going to duplicate that, and I'll give you a line with a pitch to it, and see if we can't find some harmony and harmony and unison in our chanting here. Okay, here we go. 从诸法一致的佛，其间所有阿比库，其间所有阿比库，为闻法故，皆能受。唯能法故，皆能受，何况人中诸苦事？何况人中诸苦事？ Excellent. Wow, that sounds really good. Go over to the right, page 71. Let's read it together. We're on From His First Resolution. Here we go. Together. From His First Resolution up to Buddhahood. All of Vichy sufferings in that interval, in order to hear Dharma, he can undergo, much the less all sufferings in the human realm. All right. Now, Marty, Professor Verhoeven, stood in for me last week and already lectured on this stanza and the next one. So, those of you who had the blessings to hear Marty explain this text, please let that stand and take from it what was most valuable. In order to be consistent with our series here, I'm going to go over it again and just turn the crystal a little degree, and we get a different light shining off the crystal. Like if you have a diamond with a facet and the sun is shining from the east, and a blue light comes off to the west, and if you turn it a bit, the same light sends off a magenta light, right? Like that. So we're going to hold this crystal up to the sun and get a different kind of light. Ah, well done. All right. Let's take a look at the Chinese. For those of you who your Mandarin is still in the learning stages, this will be a new experience. So what do you find here? We have 7 characters times 4, and let's do it word for word, just for fun, to get a sense of the syntax, and if this is your very, very first experience with the Mahayana Buddhist Sutra, understand that, first of all, these ideas have been in the world for 2,500 years. This is a very old text, and if you think some of the biblical literature is newer than this, now there are other religious texts that have been in the world longer. We're not trying to say it's the oldest, but the fact remains this is an old text. These ideas have been in the world guiding people and giving them a compass for their lives for a very long time. And it has been in this Chinese form for roughly 1,800 of those 2,500 years, more or less. So these words on this, just like we're seeing them here, have been part of this text for a very long time. And scholars will tell you, true or not, we don't know, but scholars will tell you that the verses came first. And if this is your first experience, you should know that there's a prose part. There are the paragraphs with grammar and text. But there's also these verses, which are set in verse form. They meter. Bum, ba, bum, ba, bum, bum. Bum, 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 bum. 7 times 4. And they say that probably it was in this form first, and then later on expanded into text. One reason being that it's easier to remember when it meters. Poetry, songs stick in our mind's ear longer because it goes bump, 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 bump. What else does that? Your heart, right? And when we coordinate this meter with the heartbeat and then with the lungs, these verses have a place to land. They go in. They're much easier to memorize. And for a very long time, the Buddha's teachings were not written down. The Buddha gave instructions not to write them down because if you look at a population, especially back in the days when most folks were agrarian, most of us were farmers, right? We made our living from what we could grow. During that time, who could afford to go to school? Well, the gentry, the rich folks, of which the population might have been 2%, 3%. So as soon as you write it down, it becomes the property of those folks, because they have a book. If you're on the farm, who's got a book? So the Buddha, the point of the Buddha's teaching at all was to help us understand why things break, essentially. Pain, and how to transform pain, how to make sense of our lives when things go wrong, which they do regularly. Now, not to say pessimistic, it's not that he's waiting for things to go wrong and glad when it happens, not. But he was talking about the big things like getting old, things like getting sick, things like birth and death. And that was the Buddha's project. And so he said, I have a method. I've got something to say to that. And I want it to stay in the hands of people who need it, not make it the province of a class of clergy people who are often wearing tall hats, sitting in spacious halls, and who you have to please in order to get them to talk to you or to get them to explain things. Not. So keep it out of the hands of the clergy. Keep it in the hands of the people who can use the Dharma. So, oral tradition. What I'm saying is the Dharma was oral tradition for a long time. My mouth, your ears. My heart, your heart. Oh, that makes sense. I like the way you said that. I trust you because the way you say it connects. That's the way the Dharma was taught for a very, very long time. And only later, when 200 years after the Buddha's nirvana, people said, we're going to forget it if we don't write it down. So they got together and wrote down what they remembered. And that was the result. Those 100 volumes there, mind you, there's more than just the Buddha's voice there, but this is one of those texts that it's collected in that collection called the Three Baskets, the Tripitaka. What you're looking at in front of you tonight is the Buddha's voice. And for the reasons I'm mentioning, Buddhism, interestingly enough, avoids a lot of the problems that arise when Scripture gets in the hands of one class or one group or one political party, which is you contest the authenticity of it. People say, you added that, you deleted that. Oh, let's see, I don't think Jesus said that. Or that gospel came from the pen of someone who was actually opposed to the teachings of the historical, et cetera, et cetera. So, not that we're looking at Christianity, most theistic religions have issues around authenticity of text. The magic word is apocryphal. Apocryphal means false, not true, right? The teacher didn't say it. Well, very, very few of these sutras get contested that way, which is so interesting that you can pretty much date the words on that page you just chanted right back to the historical Buddha, the prince who lived 2,500 years ago. From a straight line, from the Sanskrit, now to the Chinese, and now to English. Ha ha. We've got the Buddha's voice. Did you know the Buddha spoke English? Actually, if you actually heard him, he probably had a southern accent, probably talked like this, real slow, kind of gentle, maybe Texas. I'm kidding. No. Would he speak like somebody from New York? Yeah, the Buddha said, all right, so it hurts. Yeah, well, there's a way to get over it. Don't get worried. Relax. Probably not. Think the Buddha would have a Valley Girl accent? No, I don't know. How would the Buddha speak, right? Probably like a news broadcaster, right? Middle American. No. I don't know. I don't know how the Buddha would speak. But in any case, we have the Buddha's printed voice right there in front of you. And so, this is all preamble. We haven't actually touched the text yet. But when I invited you to look at the Chinese language here. These are words that people have been doing what we did, putting it in the air through our voice, looking at it with our eyes, hearing it with our ears, for minimum 1,800 years. What else did you touch today that was close to 1,800 years old? Somebody says, "You want to meet my old man?" No, I'm kidding. No, not. What? Nothing. Not much. The planet is that old, right? What else? Not much, right? So one of the thrills for me when I first understood what it was in front of me, as I was reading Buddhist texts at age 15, is when I first encountered them, I realized that this is it's a textual fossil, right? It's a living record of wisdom on the planet, kept alive by and large by people like these, the Sangha, whose job is to keep the texts moving, to keep them, aerated, keep the moths off them, and keep them in people's ears. So, like the sutra being a kind of a living fossil, the Sangha, the Buddha's community, is the longest running fraternity on the planet. I think you can say that without much doubt of contradiction. Name another social grouping that has been intact and survives to this day. I flapped my robe at you, right? This is a robe very similar to the garment worn by the Buddha's own disciples, direct disciples. And the rules that we follow any given day, the customs, the hours, the style, the guidelines that we live by, both men and women, can be traced directly back to the Buddhist Sangha. So, how interesting, Come to the monastery on a Saturday night and you get a chance to touch history in a direct and living way, which is one of the reasons that one of the things that keeps me going, just day after day, morning after morning, is to realize that this is a tradition with legs. This is a tradition that chances are will survive, given the test of time. It adapts, it puts down roots, and puts up a hybrid. So, what's American Buddhism going to look like in 100 years? This is one chunk of it. English language, Buddhist text. The Buddha's voice in English. All right? So, enough preamble. Let's look now at the Chinese. Here we go. Ready? 从出发意知得佛. Word by word, take a look. 从, from. 出, initially, the very beginning, the first. 发, to bring up, to send out. 意, idea. 知, all the way to the, getting, for, that's the Buddha. That's the word of the Buddha, okay? From, first making idea, all the way to attaining Buddhahood. You have to add the hood, or the state of. From the very first time the idea arises, all the way through to the actual attainment of the state of Buddhahood. Okay? See how terse the Chinese is? It's really, really economical language. From initial making resolve all the way to the attainment of Buddhahood, comma. Okay, so that's one idea. Next line. 其间所有而必苦. It, between all that exists, abi, that's a Romanized word, that's a Sanskrit word, avici. The Chinese don't have a v sound, so they did abi, ku, pain, suffering, misery, grief. From, or let's see, it's between, so the interval, soyo, all, abi, avici means without break, no gap, unintermittent pain. So, in that interval, all the endless pain. Okay, first line. From initial resolve right up to the attainment of Buddhahood itself, and in between all the endless pain, parentheses, that someone suffers, that you can experience. Okay, so far so good. Two ideas strung together. Comma. All right, third line. Here we go. 为 one fa gu jie neng shou. Here we go. In order to hear Dharma, meaning teachings, because all able to endure. In order to hear the Dharma, because completely able to take on. Okay, we're building, here we go. From the initial resolve right up to the attainment of Buddhahood and all of that endless suffering in the interval between those 2 points in time, in order to hear the Buddha Dharma, he can take it all on. Okay, line 4, here we go. 何况人中诸苦事. How much more so human amid or human in all painful things. Again, how much the more human life, all suffering experiences. How much the more is he able to endure all the things that hurt in the human life, in one lifetime. Period. Okay, we've built it piece by piece, word by word. Take a look. From that very first resolution to become a Buddha or to get liberated, up to the actual moment when he realizes Buddhahood, and all of the unintermittent suffering between those two events, those two experiences, he can take all of it on in order to hear the Dharma. How much the more is he able to endure the pain of a single lifetime? Okay, got it? Now, what you're looking at on the right-hand side is an early translation. What I mean is our Buddhist community, the Buddhist Text Translation Society, observed our teacher, the late Chan Master Hsuan-Hua, our founder, spend 90 minutes of every single day explaining this text. Twice on Saturday, twice on Sunday, for a total of 9 years. Master Hsuan-Hua gave 9 years of his life to explaining this entire text. And mind you, this is one chapter out of something that has many chapters. This is a fraction of the entire text. We watched him teach by example that this is important. He really valued this text and he wanted us to understand it. So he put his life into it. And we translated it early on. This was first translated in 1982 or 86. And it's ready to be retranslated. So this English translation is ready to be improved. Here's what I went through it a while before the lecture, and I would probably do it this way. Now we've looked at it word by word by word, right? And strung the ideas together. I would probably do it something like this. From his initial resolve up to Buddhahood, and all the unending sufferings in that length of time, he can endure up. One more time. Try again. Start over. From his initial resolve up to Buddhahood, and through the unintermittent, erase that, we would say delete, right? Highlight it and delete it. Here we go. From his initial resolve up to Buddhahood. Delete that. Start over. Here we go. Okay, got it. Ready? That's the problem. Here we go. He can endure, or she. Pronoun is gender non-specific. She, let's do she. She can endure all the endless misery from her first resolve up to Buddhahood in order to hear the Dharma. How much more is this true for all the pain in the human realm? Want to hear it again? She can endure all the endless misery from her first resolve up to the attainment of Buddhahood. How much more is this true for the pain she meets in the human realm? Okay, hang on to that thought. If you're hearing this for the very first time, you're meeting the sutra in midstream. Notice that this chapter ends in one page. That's it. We're at the very, very, very end of this whole chapter. And I'll give you the quick summary. We're talking about a bodhisattva. This is an awakened being. Somebody who is unselfish. Somebody who lives to make life not only endurable, but meaningful for other people. Bodhisattvas are awakened beings. What they awaken to is that this is not the end of your life, your skin. They wake up to the connection between not just all humans, but all beings. So, because they see right through the surface, right through the skin, to what is the same inside us, not just with humans, but with all beings. So, for that reason, when you hurt, they hurt. When you're not hurting, they're at peace. When you're joyful, they share the joy. And they're connected. And it's not just a warm and fuzzy idea. It's actual seeing of the sameness. The bodhisattva has been working hard to go beyond the limits of his or her ego. That's a word we've gotten used to using for the last century or so. The word in the sutra is self, and it's a constructed self. The bodhisattva deconstructs the self, sees through the illusion that I'm a separate individual entity, a separate unit. And by doing that, it's not that nothing is left once you let go of the self, it's that everything is there. You see the connection, the identity and substance. The Chinese call it tong ti da bei, great compassion that comes from unity of substance. Same body, great compassion. Earth, air, fire, water, the hard parts, the warm parts, the empty parts, the liquid parts, identical. In humans, mosquitoes, whales, ancestors, children to come. So that's the outer parts. And then the inner parts, he identifies as being the same. And that gets really interesting because is it soul? Is it the Great Spirit? Is it consciousness? What name do you give to that thing inside? Well, different names. People who look inside identify there's something there, somebody there. The Bodhisattva says, right, same. It's called the Buddha nature through this tradition. So, having seen that identity, he says, yeah, well, our third stage Bodhisattva says, I see people really missing something essential. We grab onto things, take them as real, attach our emotions to them, and then when they go bad, it hurts. When things break up, when their essential nature is revealed, it hurts. Why? Because we love some and we hate some. And the things we love, when they break up, it hurts. Think mom and dad. Think grandkids. Think countries. Think possessions. Everything, says the Bodhisattva, that's made of conditions, everything that comes together based on component parts will come apart sooner or later. Think body, think planet, think car, clothes. Nothing fails to fall apart. Not an emotional nihilism, actual observation. You can see it. Some things fall apart quickly. Chrysanthemums, right? Wait 3 days, does like that, right? Some things last a little longer. Bodies every 60, 70, 80, 90 years change and go, right? The planet, the ice caps, with this has been the hottest September in history last month. If NASA's projections are accurate, are you ready? The polar ice caps will be gone in 5 years. The rate of evaporation and melting this year exceeded any other model of projection. And they say that given now, they have to recalibrate because we lost so much of the Antarctica and the North Pole, that given the new projections, they've recalibrated, that the oceanfront property could be underwater by as much as 3 feet in 5 years. Because why? The ice caps are going to melt. They're melting fast. Our friend Henry Kaiser, who is now in Antarctica tonight, used to take, he's a diver, and he works for the U.S., he works for Arctic, the Geological Survey, I'm not sure who. He takes research scientists out to McMurdo Sound and out across the ice and then dives for them. This is one of the things that Henry does. And before, the base camp in Antarctica is, let's say this is Antarctica. The base camp is here, and they have to get over to the best place to dive, and where the penguins, you all saw Happy Feet and Penguin March, right? Over here. Well, they used to get on their ice buggies and go that way. Well, last year, they couldn't. For the first time, slush. They had to go around, and it took a very long time to get there around the roundabout way, because now this is melting. First time. That's really scary when it's changing that fast. So, just to say, impermanent. The Bodhisattva looks at things and goes, yeah, that's the nature of it. But people we care about attach to them. When things break, it hurts. Realization number 1. Bodhisattva says, I have learned through my understanding of this that it doesn't do to attach to them. So he has learned to do this tightrope of caring but not attaching, of feeling with but not being confused, of seeing things and delighting in them and not going around, cynical and dark, but at the same time understanding the nature of conditioned things. Now he wants to wake people up. Now she wants to get people to see what she sees. And so sets herself the project of waking other people up. Step 2. What works? Bodhisattva says, the Dharma works. Because why? It's the Buddha's vision about the nature of reality. How things are ku, kong, wu chang, wu wo. Things are unsatisfying. They are not self, and they are transient. Called the 3 hallmarks of all conditioned things. San, Fa, Yin in Chinese. He wants people to wake up. I got to learn the Dharma. Where am I going to learn the Dharma? Step 4. He identifies, I'm going to go meet somebody, anybody who can teach me the Dharma, he says. That's what happens in this chapter. And so the Bodhisattva goes off on a quest for the Dharma. And sure enough, this is one of the interesting literary aspects of this text. Whenever somebody makes a resolve, I want to learn the Dharma at any cost, no matter what it takes in terms of energy or wealth to get to hear the Dharma, I'm going to learn it. As soon as you have that resolve, you get a test. So we've just been through this part in the text where somebody says, oh, you want to learn the Dharma? Sure, no problem. Climb up this mountain and jump down into the pit of fire, and I'll be happy to give you the Dharma. The test, right? And so the Bodhisattva goes, no problem. How high? I can do it. Climbs right up like an Olympic diver. Yahoo! Splash. Give me the Dharma, right? So, first thing to say is, kids, don't try this at home. Do not go home and say, the Dharma Master said the Bodhisattvas really do this, so I'm going to jump off the third balcony. Not, right? Take it as literary metaphor. Now, if you're an Avatamsaka Bodhisattva, jump and tell us when you get down to the bottom, what you learned, because we want to know. If you're not an Avatamsaka style Bodhisattva, take it as a benchmark. Take it as the sutra's standard for what a Bodhisattva is willing to let go of in order to hear the Dharma. That's where we are right now in the text, is looking at priorities. The Bodhisattva's priority, number 1, is helping people wake up. That's what she wants to do. She wants to wake us up so we see through her eyes the nature of things and don't be confused, don't get attached to them. That's the point of the text. The other point is the Bodhisattva's values say, any way to get that knowledge, that's what I'll do. I don't care what it costs. I want that knowledge. So that's where we are. So she can endure all the endless misery from her first resolve up to Buddhahood. How much the more is this true for all the pain in the human realm? In order to hear the Dharma, she'll give up anything. Okay? So that's the gist of it right now. And with that kind of commitment, that kind of renunciation, that sense of values, the Dharma opens up. And the Bodhisattva gets it. And then teaches it to others so that they wake up. All right. That's the context. That's where we are. Now, sure enough, the sutra gives us this extreme context, right? This extreme example. This would be the extreme sutra, like extreme sports, the ultra marathon of bodhisattva tests. But we don't have to go to that extreme to apply it to our world. Here's an example. Let's pin it right down. I make a practice not to talk about politics. You all know that, right? Tempted as I am, as tempting as it is to tell you where I am vis-a-vis political leadership, I have resisted. I have been good and have not betrayed how I voted. However, sometimes when it's initiatives, I too want people to wake up. And now, we may see a mass exodus of bodhisattvas from the hall as soon as I start talking about it. But here's my justification. It's tempting. Has anybody read Measure 37? Okay. Here's the way to do it. I didn't say it. You going to tell him?
Oh, yeah, it's good for him.
Oh, okay. Really?
Yeah.
You want to do it?
Okay.
You know, your lips are moving. Come on. You said you weren't going to do that. All right. So he's always teasing me about not being a ventriloquist. All right. Okay. So what's the story?
Ah, you're just a pussy. You say it.
Oh, okay. All right. So there you are. All right. Yeah. If I'm a pussy, what are you? Huh? So here's the thing. The reason being, now, here's what launched me into this. Here's a bodhisattva who says, my values are truth and ending suffering. And I want to find a way to explain things to people so it hurts less, to maximize their well-being and to get rid of their suffering. It helps if you're hearing truth. Then you have a chance to make a choice. This bodhisattva will give up anything for the truth. His life, her well-being. And will stop at nothing to uncover principles. Right now, there is something being perpetrated in this country, and it's pretty much uniquely in this country, that threatens the well-being of the entire world. No exaggeration. That's not exaggerated. If you look at it, what are the reasons? Well, convenience, maybe. You can imagine that there was somebody in a laboratory somewhere who thought, hey, I wonder if we put this together, if maybe we could, it'd be better, maybe. Well, my understanding of how the corporate world works is that marketing drives the R&D. What gets developed? What sells? What gets the green light? The most profitable, not the best, or the wise, or the good, or the beneficial. Certain companies, and they don't have to be named, but there's two that are really, I won't name Monsanto or DuPont, far be it from me to label them, but some marketing departments decided that it would be good for their board of directors and the bottom line, for their profit margin, if they put poison deep into what's called the germ line of their seeds, and then sell those seeds. Soybeans and corn. It's called genetically modified organisms, GMOs. And this company, with the help of the United States government, embarked on a program of buying up all the other available soybean and corn varieties, of which America led the world. I mean, corn essentially came from Mexico, some people say. In America, corn-fed, cornbread, right? We're just corn-fed Americans. And these companies, with the collusion and the duplicity of the Food and Drug Administration, the head of which was the lawyer for the very same company, so that the government and the companies are identical, bought up all the other available varieties of seed and put them into a bank and said, oh, you would like to buy seed? Buy some of our seed. 88% of the soybeans available in America have animal genes spliced into them and Roundup, which is a very, very deadly toxic pesticide. And that's what's available. 90% of all the corn in America is called Roundup Ready corn. You can't buy anything else now because it's gone. They bought those heritage seeds. There are savvy, wise gardeners, largely led by Rodale, who has been a hero in gardening and agriculture for decades, and kept their heirloom seeds and didn't tell anybody. But the bulk, the huge mass of non-GMO seeds are under the ownership of a company. So what? Well, the idea is they put Roundup, which is a chemical product manufactured by one company, right down into the germline, into the genomes, into the genetic identity makeup of the corn that they sell you. So what? So it's resistant to the poison because the poison is in the product, in the seed. Plant the seed, up comes the corn and soybeans. Then they come and spray Roundup, this very same hugely toxic stuff that'll kill you, on the field, which kills all the other plants except the ones that have the Roundup already in them. So their seed belongs to the company, and the poison and pesticide belongs to the company, herbicide belongs to the company. And then we take that poison seed and eat it as corn. And we eat it as hydrogenated corn oil, as corn syrup, as corn sweetener. Corn made by Monsanto, GMO corn, is in about half of the products in your kitchen right now. And the doctors who are keeping track of this now say, we're discovering diseases now that are not responding to traditional treatments. And we think that it's because we have been eating genetically modified corn and soybeans now for about 2 decades. They first introduced them in the 70s. So we've been doing it now for some 30 plus years. The scariest one of all, infertility. Infertility. They're discovering that the laboratory animals that eat genetically modified organisms no longer reproduce, and their organs shrink and don't function. And now, what was the article yesterday? Young boys and girls are maturing more quickly because of the genetically modified RGB, the bovine growth hormone that is put into the soybeans that they feed the cows and the corn. And you go, wait a minute. So for one company's profit, we are ending the human race. They're no longer fertile, right? Birth rates are dropping like crazy. That's one. Leaky gut syndrome is one. Colitis. This whole raft of digestive diseases that have to do with permeability of the stomach lining comes from the pesticides that are genetically modified into the plants. They're designed to kill bugs, not the plants but the bugs. It makes the insects' stomachs break. And they die, and now that same phenomenon is happening nationwide. Largely centered in the U.S. Why? Because 27 other countries say, you do not sell us that poisonous food. You haven't tested that. You don't know. You just invented it. You have not let that evolve over thousands and thousands of years like corn and soybeans do. Do not sell it to us. Okay? So what happened? As soon as the European Union said no more of that. As soon as Japan said, we do not buy your products, guess what? Monsanto, okay, we'll take it out. They kept selling, they sold them non-GMO. But in this country, our only choice is genetically modified corn and soybeans and other. And you go, why don't we know about this? How come they get away with this? It's because the Food and Drug Administration that is meant to regulate this are led by men and women who used to be in the employ of the same companies. They're the same people. And today, those officials are saying to us, oh, it's perfectly safe. Besides, we've done tests and we haven't seen any problems, they say. Well, we're seeing the problems now. And it's very scary. And it's also outrageous that for private profit, an entire generation of human beings are eating products that are not necessarily safe at all. Furthermore, you don't even know if you're eating them or not. Initiative 37 says what? Says you must label your product and tell us if it has GMO products in it. If you put that poisoned, pre-poisoned stuff in your cookies, in your bread mix, in your soda pop, tell us, because we will not buy it. That's the measure. Prop 37 is the initiative to tell us. That's why I've never done this before, taken sutra time to talk about it, but man, in the very few days, we're going to get a chance to vote on that. And the Los Angeles Times does not endorse it. Chronicle hasn't released their, right? League of Women Voters, no opinion. Why? Money talks. Money talks. This is a citizens' initiative to tell us. That's all we're saying. Once they tell us, then we vote with our dollars. Then we vote by telling the food companies, you put that stuff in your product, it's going to stay on the shelf. I'm not buying it. That's what Europe did. The companies very happily pulled it out, right? Because they don't have to tell us. It's legal to put this stuff in food and not tell us. We should make that illegal. Why? Your babies are eating it. Your grandchildren will be eating it. So, it's real scary. Now, why am I so hot on this? I was just in LA with the National Vegetarian Conference called Vegasource.com, Healthy Lifestyle Expo. I was the speaker, and so was he, I confess. And a man named Smith, is it Gene Smith? Gave his presentation. He is a courageous environmental journalist. He's got a book called Genetic Roulette and a DVD now. And his talk was so unsettling to all the doctors and nutritionists and athletes gathered at the VegSource conference that we had like Dr. McDougall, John McDougall, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, who is Bill Clinton, President Clinton's doctor. You know, Bill Clinton looks so good. He weighs what he did in high school. Why? He's a pure vegan. And Caldwell Esselstyn was the one who turned Bill Clinton around. All these doctors were there. John Robbins, Diet for New America. And they were asked at our panel at the end, what do they think about Mr. Smith's genetic roulette? And they all said, three of them said, you know, we are doctors in the trenches. We're in the front lines of healing illness. Somebody breaks a limb, we're there with the sutures and the splints. There are so many things we have to pay attention to. We've been holding off on GMOs. Why? Once we open it, we're going to have to pay attention to it. That'll have to be our new focus. And life is short. That's a world of pain. And if I don't have to know about it, I can go on and heal illness. I don't have to get so political. Now that we know about it, we cannot ignore it. It's so huge that 88% of the soybeans in this country are already genetically modified. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Right? 90% of the corn in this country is genetically modified already. They didn't ask you. They just went ahead and sold it and grabbed up all the other seeds so there was nothing else. Tam, you're nodding. Monsanto.
And they sort of cooperated with the government to require almost all American farmers to use their GMO seed.
They have no choice.
And so the farmers had no choice to use, except to use Monsanto seed. But now in that Proposition 37, the farmers sided with the government and Monsanto to encourage us to vote no on it.
37.
Because they're afraid they cannot sell it. So we know that we want to know, so we can have a choice. But the farmers now sided with the government.
They'll go down.
Oh yeah, they're on the government side because of profit, surely, nothing else. So they're afraid not to be able to sell it. So they encourage people to know. But up to date, I think they've been arguing. They don't know the poisonous effect of the new seed. But there's one potential danger, which is very possible, because when a disease or when insects attack the crop, normally they only attack one variety.
One variety.
Now, if we standardize all into one variety,
Right.
and if the
That goes down.
insect happen to,
Goodbye to soybeans.
then we'll be,
Goodbye to corn.
that's right,
Yeah.
everything will be destroyed. So that
That's really serious. So Tam is saying that 2 points. One is farmers are now siding with the government to say no on 37 because they're entirely using Monsanto products, both the seed and the insecticide, herbicide, pesticide. And if people say, no, we're not going to buy your GMO labeled products after we pass 37, they're out of business, right? And then he said, another huge issue is called biodiversity, which is nature has sustained crops because there are many varieties. If a bug shows up, let's say the glassy-winged sharpshooter, that's the name of a bug that attacks wine grapes. The glassy-winged sharpshooter showed up and attacked, let's say it was Syrah grapes. All right, they're gone. What do? You plant Zinfandel, because the glassy-winged sharpshooter doesn't attack those. It usually attacks one kind, right? If there is only one variety of seed and the bug comes and gets it, no more soybeans, right? No more corn. That's dumb, stupid, right? It's so obvious. But for private profit, you forget principle, and they say, jian li er wang yi. You see benefit and you forget the principle. All right. Now, to back up Tam's first point, one of the stories told on this DVD called Genetic Roulette is a tragic, heartbreaking, horrifying truth about India. The Indian government promoted genetically modified seeds as the answer to providing enough food for the world. Well, the planet makes enough food, but it's a question of distribution. In India, it's a different kind of scale for the farmers. Farmers in India have a system of sustainable crops and agriculture that has been there for minimum 6,000, 8,000 years. You have some cows, and you grow enough food to keep the cows going until the rains come again. And it's, people get by and you survive. Well, genetically modified organisms were introduced into India, and one of the side effects of Roundup, which we found out, is when you splice in those pesticide and animal genes into the genetic structure of the corn and the soybeans, particularly corn, it weakens the crop because it's not robust. It's limited to that certain set of choices. It's monoculture. It becomes a weaker crop. What the Indian farmers did after they harvested the corn is they turned their cows loose in the field. And the cows have always been happy to eat the silage, the leftover stalks, the grass, the corn husks that were there. That was how they kept their cows alive. Well, the package that they sold the Indian farmers was Roundup Ready seed, blast it all with Roundup, kill all the other plants. The cows came in, ate the Roundup blasted silage, and died. Then what happened? The very same thing, the very thing that Tam mentioned. Roundup is a foreign entity, right? The soil attacked it, and the corn didn't grow after 1 or 2 generations. Further, this is the one that just breaks your heart. In order to maximize profits, they put a time ticker in the genetic seeds so that it became an annual, not a perennial. It was always the case in the past that the Indian farmers would grow corn, eat some of it, and save some for seed for next year. These seeds didn't reproduce. They were designed to be 1 year only, so they had to start fresh and buy new seed every year. The cows died, breaking their 6,000-year-old structure. Then the seeds needed to be rebought. The seeds did not reproduce. They couldn't buy the new seeds, and the farmers are committing suicide. 250,000 Indian farmers last year committed suicide in one corner of India. There is this huge new outbreak of farmer suicides in India because it's a honor and shame culture, and if you cannot support your family, you as the farmer are shamed. Where do you go? You can't eat, your cows are dead, you can't feed your kids. They commit suicide, and the widows and children of the farmers who commit suicide often commit suicide because there's nowhere to go. There's no safety net in India because of Monsanto's greed entirely, and because of the brainwashing they did to the Indian government, that this is the answer to the problem, to starvation. Right, Connie? Say again, how did that effect happen? They sold special seeds to India that wouldn't reproduce, right? And America does not have small subsistence farmers. America has agribusiness, giant conglomerates, right? One farmer owns miles of, so they have backup. Furthermore, the American government subsidizes agriculture. If your crop dies, the American government will pay you to get through the year. So it's a different system. India is subsistence farmers. The issue of farmer suicides in India, you think, that's evil. That's evil to have one company ruin the livelihood of hundreds of thousands of Indian farmers for their own profit. Happy Village. Paid for by Monsanto. Okay, we remember the Buddha Dharma? Let's see, where were we back in the? I've heard of that before. Dashing. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I have to repeat what you say, so I have to remember everything. So, okay, what Master Dashing said was that there have been other places where Monsanto products were given to farm animals. The animals got sick. The local veterinarians and the farm agents and the good guys saw what was happening, figured out what was different, pulled the GMO feed out of the cattle's and pigs and chickens feed line, fed them non-GMO. The animals immediately responded and came back and got healthy. They put the GMO feed back in their feed line. They got sick again. Pulled it out. They got better. So this is, you could say anecdotal, meaning UC Davis hasn't paid for a double-blind, peer-reviewed test the way you do it, But come on, we're talking about a generation. The other thing that Master Dashing said was that this stuff gets in the body because it's genetically coded into the product. What they've discovered is it links with our body's genetics, and it doesn't go away. It's not a case of just, changing the food once it gets in the gut. So it's different in humans. And the beneficiaries, this video that got me so, that determined me to talk about it tonight, which I tell you, this is something I haven't done before. The notion that it's for the benefit of a very, very few people, a board of directors, essentially, stockholders in one company, that they're doing this. And there is no guarantee that it would cost more to go back to the old, non-genetically modified, nature-modified for thousands and thousands of years methods. It's just people, they say in Chinese, 聪明反被聪明误, outsmarting ourselves, getting too smart for our own well-being. All right, so that's the let's bring it back. My initial takeoff point was to say there is now on the ballot something called Proposition 37, which is modest in its scope. It just says, hey, you use these products? Tell us. That's all. Put on the food labels what's in it. Would that be called consumer protection, wouldn't you think? Right? That's all. If the Prop 37 is a citizens' initiative, it's just put out by concerned people who say, I want to know what I'm feeding my children, my mom, my kids, my cows, myself. I want to know what it is. If you put poison in it, tell me. You must. We want that to be the law. It can't be the case that you slip that in there and don't let me know. Okay, that's the deal. Cynthia? Vote against it. Monsanto. Yeah. What did didn't have any money. Monsanto is pouring millions of dollars to get this, because if they can stop it in California, other states won't bring it up. If California wins, other states will certainly follow suit. Then pretty soon nationwide they won't be able to sell their poison. Unfortunately, the FDA head is appointed by the president. It's the Democrats and the Republicans. In this case, it's citizens' initiative. We're on our own. Marion. Organic is non-GMO. So, correct. It won't have to be. Right, right. Okay, so you want to explain, Terry? Right. Right. So the market always responds, and that's the only way to control is through you vote with your pocketbook, you vote with your credit card by not buying poison stuff. Now, I learned this in LA this last weekend, that there are cooperative organizations now that have a label called non-GMO. And if you go online, I think it's called non-GMO what is it? Non-GMO.org? I'm not sure. Check that. But if you Google in, and they have a list of brands, and they're now, 50 brands of crackers and breads and spaghetti and drinks that are specifically non-GMO. Organic now means non-GMO. If Prop 37 fails, which, we don't know, then organic can still have GMO stuff in it. They don't have to tell you. So that will be taken away as a safeguard. So it's a really critical moment. And that's why I gave, 40 minutes of our precious sutra time to talk about it, because we're people who know people who know people. And if you can tell your colleagues, family members, classmates, buddies, grandparents, grandkids, to vote yes on 37, there's a chance. In Mendocino County, a coalition of good-hearted folks decided they wanted to keep Monsanto out of Mendocino County and won. Ron Epstein was a key player in that coalition, and just people who said, Mendocino right now doesn't have GMO subsidies, and they made it. It was a county ordinance. Terry, do you know the details of that? How did it work? They lost. Yeah. It was a county-wide ballot in Mendocino. This was what, four years ago? And longer. The citizens said, we don't want GMO, we don't want genetically modified plants to grow in this county. They're not there now. And so they got a bill to say, we will not accept them. It must pass the test. And Monsanto, sent millions of dollars worth of flyers and advertisements and TV ads into the county to lie to you, to make you think it's fine, no problem. And they lost. The citizens won. Alan.
Actually, I read the story. I also heard that from Dr. Robertson. The story is the other way, actually. Dr. Robertson, he started to conduct the citizenship group, try to put that in the ballot in the county. And then in the beginning, it was very difficult. Just a few handful of people go to the public library, post it here and there.
If you turn your mouth that way, more people will hear you. There you go.
So in the beginning, it was very difficult. They didn't get a lot of attention, and volunteer was not enough. So they just kind of went away. They post that in the library, some public places. So just about the time when Dr. Robertson was going to quit, and then suddenly there was a small group of people, I forgot the name, approaching him and said, oh, maybe we want to help you and spread out the news to more people in our county. And they said, okay, that's great, so let's work together. And then Monsanto found out that, filed the lawsuit, tried to do something with that group. And then originally, the citizen was kind of not, didn't pay much attention to that event, because Monsanto filed a lawsuit against that small group. Hey, what's going on? You just want to do this, and you want to fight those against the small people, just with such a population. So the citizen got very, very kind of irritated. Said, okay, now we really want to
Support. Yeah.
support that small group, and against this big corporation, try to say you put into our small property right here. So that was the story.
Nobody likes a bully. It's a good question. So did people hear Alan's story? He read about it, and it was Ron Epstein who started it, and nothing happened. He was ready to quit when a coalition of friends of interested people in Mendocino said, hey, this is very interesting. And Monsanto found out and landed on him with all 4 feet and put lots of money into defeating, sued them, and then it came to people's attention. Why is Monsanto beating up on this little bunch of neighbors, Well, it turns out that Monsanto is very afraid of the truth. They can't hear it. That's when the ground swelled, the grassroots uprising. So they passed. And so Cynthia's question is, why didn't we hear about this? Well, it's not in the economic interest of newspapers to publish good news stories. If it doesn't bleed, it doesn't play the front page. And it locally it did. If you read the Santa Rosa Press Democrat or the Ukiah Daily Journal, and I'm sure you do probably every issue, right? Never miss the Ukiah Daily Journal. Santa Rosa Press Democrat has shrunk its size. It's a mini paper now. Times are so hard for newspapers. Dashi? Right. Okay, I appreciate that. Master Dashing says he thinks this is in line with the sutra, and it's because of those ideas that I decided to talk about it tonight. Number one is, here's our Bodhisattva who says, I want people to wake up. Why? Because I'm connected to them and they're hurting. Right? That's it. He says, when they hurt, I hurt. And I want them to wake up, and the only way I've figured out they'll wake up is if they hear the truth. And even when they hear the truth, that things are ku kong, wu wo, wu chang, impermanent, transient, moving on, no intrinsic self in them, all made of components, and ultimately don't satisfy. That's the nature of things. People don't know that. I want to wake them up. The Buddha Dharma is the way to do it. He said, well, what is the Buddha Dharma? It's truth from the Buddha's eyes. It's truth that goes deeper than the truth that most of us see when we bounce off the surface. I love it, I hate it. The Buddha says, well, that's the problem there. We attach to things we love and we're afraid of the things we hate. So I thought, right, the truth. Right now, Prop 37 is a question of truth versus falsehood. It's a question of selfishness versus unselfishness. It's a question of greed versus generosity of spirit. And it goes deeper because they're messing with the deepest level of construction, the genes. Genetic messing doesn't get unmessed. You know, once you change things down there, you're tampering with something that has taken tens of thousands of, hundreds of thousands of years to slowly respond. Evolution. Well, you change it in a generation, you don't know. So, yeah. And furthermore, vegetarians, the genetically modified organisms have non-plant entities inserted in. They put pig genes into tomatoes. They put spider genes into goats for goat's milk. Don't ask me why. To make a stronger kind of thread. They put cow genes into pigs. These are all documented forms of genetically modified organisms. And as a vegetarian, I would like to eat food that doesn't have animals in it, right? Thank you very much. Don't mess with my wheat and corn and soybeans. So, you look at your tofu and it goes, meh, right? Mom, my tomato is looking back at me. Eat your tomatoes, dear. So, that's why I decided to bring it up. And the question is, the Bodhisattva says, what will help them wake up? Truth. Where do you get it? Vote for Proposition 37. And we'll be one step closer to the truth, and if we doesn't pass, the darkness closes in deeper. It'll be harder next time.
That's why right now, when we ask the group in here, how many people buy organic fruit and vegetables? See, at work, we have only a couple hundred, and my friend, I asked them, nobody knows about GMO,
Nobody knows.
Then I said, I bought it, organic is too expensive, okay?
Too expensive.
They don't care about, they bought cheap one, see? That's the problem.
I know.
That's why right now, most only us, we know that. That's why we went to Fresh Easy, to buy from Canada. They always put it on the label,
No GMO.
Only Fresh Easy, they come from Canada. That's the safe way. Lucky, every store, they always have a GMO in there.
Yeah.
Problem.
Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah, America, that's the other thing. 27 other countries have said, you do not introduce your poisonous stuff to us. We will not take it. The government, who has no interest in Monsanto, tells the truth and protects their citizens. Only the U.S. says, yeah, we can lie to them, but if you protest, we'll take it out so we can sell you what you'll buy. That's so infuriating, right? They won't sell wholesome food to the U.S., but they'll sell it to other countries if they protest. Outrageous. So thank you for going on this little journey with me tonight on truth in advertising, right? It's part of Buddha Dharma, waking up. And if you don't vote for yourself, vote for your grandchildren. Wouldn't it be horrible to wake up one day and discover that all the corn is gone? Because something attacked it and it didn't resist? And there wasn't? What's that? We could just switch to... to be continued, all right? Okay, dedication of merit. Let's, it's there on your chanting sheet. It's an opportunity to send out good wishes to our bigger family, that people all wake up. What did I say? To vote yes. Say it louder. Hallelujah. Can I get a yes on 37? Yes. Hallelujah. Praise Monsanto. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may their minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light break the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay. I will be posting on my blog about that and links to the information if you'd like to know more about it. So if you go to Dharma Forest, just type in Dharma Forest into your search engine. It's paramita.typepad.com. So you want to go Dharma Forest into Google, and it'll come up. It's not there yet. I'll do it tomorrow, so you can find those links to Genetic Roulette. Now, this has been a really busy time for your monk. I've been at the Sufi conference dialoguing with the Zoroastrians and the Hindus. And then I went to Toledo and talked to the greatest generation, the octogenarians, and had a great time. Then spent a week with the Benedictines and the Trappists at Monks in the West, and then immediately ran down to LA for the vegetarian conference. So just lots of moving around and talking to different kinds of groups about different things. And the Veg Source conference is a wonderful group of people who are trying to wake up and using food as their door, their entry. And over the years, we've created books that we took. Our kindness book of Cherishing Life Poetry was written for that conference, and the Whole Body Vegan Lifestyle book and Meditation Handbook was written for them. And I'll try to put a song together for the VegSource conference. And if I was an American beef cow, you can bet that I would be mad too. That was written for VegSource, and also the VegSource mantra, I have enough, I am grateful, share the blessings, hallelujah. That was written for VegSource. So I came up with a new song this time, which I wanted to share tonight. And this will be the second time it's ever been sung ever. So, man, you become a focus group. Did you know that? Is that cruel and unusual to sing untested songs on you? So, it's called Every Burger Had a Mother. Every Big Mac, every Whopper had a mother. And you have a line that you can sing. It's called, You're related to me. That's it. You're related to me. I go, I love life and I love kin. You say, you're related to me. Try it. And the skin I was born in, you're related to me. There we go. And once again, it goes, I love life and I love kin. You're related to me. And the skin I was born in, you're related to me. Good. Every burger had a mother, no more creature should die. Why do humans eat like goblins? No more creatures must die. Here we go. I love life and I love kin. You're related to me. And the skin I was born in, you're related to me. Here we go. For every dinner, every day, no more creatures should die. Billions killed in the cruelest way, no more creatures must die. Join me. You love life and you love kin. You're related to me. And the skin you were born in, you're related to me. When I think of the meat I've eaten, no more creatures must die. See the faces of the lives I've taken, no more creatures must die. You've got feathers, you've got fins, you're related to me. You've got fur and you've got wings, you're related to me. I want no faces on my dinner plate, no more creatures should die. No eyes look back with fear and hate, no more creatures must die. Join me. You've got feathers, you've got fins, you're related to me. You've got fur and you've got wings, you're related to me. The calf can hear his mother cry, they're related to me. She must know they're about to die, they're related to me. You love life and you love kin. You're related to me. Skin you were born in. You're related to me. I don't remember who I've been. You're related to me. Fur or feathers, scales or skin, you're related to me. You love life and you love kin, you're related to me. And the skin we were born in, you're related to me. So, what do you think about that? No comment. He's doing the tiger pose. He's a yoga guy. That's a yoga tiger. Yeah. Okay. Now, the next thing I wanted to share. Thank you for joining me with that song. Work in progress. I wanted to show some of the photos that bring to life something very wonderful that happened. That again passes just by a blip on the radar screen, which is a conversation that's going on between monks and nuns of other traditions. And if you'll give me 1 second while we get set up here, I'm going to show you some photos. Could we, yeah, there we go, thank you. There's a fine story happening in the world of interfaith, and it happens on both sides, the Catholic and the Buddhist side in this case, which is to say it's called monks in the West. Now there is a nuns in the West, but this is the monks in the West, and this is the third gathering of Buddhist and Catholic monastics. The first one was 2006, and it happened at the City of 10,000 Buddhas. Second one was 2009, and it happened at St. John's Abbey in Collegeville, Minnesota. And then number 3 happened last week at the City of 10,000 Buddhas. And it brought together 7 Benedictine and Trappist monks and 8 Buddhist monks from 4 different monasteries: Shasta Abbey, Los Angeles International Meditation Center, Abhayagiri Forest Monastery in the Thai tradition, and City of 10,000 Buddhas. This is the new dormitory, just to get us started, just so you can see what it looks like. And this is where we meditated every day. This is the Chan Hall at Tathagata Monastery. So this is Rulai Si, Chantang. And some people would say, well, what do monks do together? Catholics and Buddhists, do you argue about whether the Pope was right or the Pope was wrong, or you argue about pedophilia, or do they wonder about who the Buddha was and why are you bowing to these graven images? No, it's way beyond that. The dialogue is much more sophisticated. And what's so interesting is that when monks get together from different traditions, we share so much in common. There's so much that's the same. It really goes beyond what is different. And we don't talk about theology, about the big questions, God and Buddha, heaven or nirvana. We talk instead about meditation, about food, about the aging communities. This is an interesting story. This is Father Michael Peterson, who grew up in the Midwest, but became a monk at Blue Cloud Abbey in South Dakota. It was this wonderful, huge monastery in South Dakota that closed 2 months ago. And all the monks went out wandering. The average age of the monks at Blue Cloud Abbey is over 80. They just got too old. And the young ones who came in, count them on one hand. There weren't any. So this huge monastery that had been there for 60 years, the center of the community, right? The source of so much strength and goodness. Kids grew up there, became grandparents, closed. No more. That's it, So he told that story, and we're all going, whoa, amazing. Too old. They said, we don't want to run a hospice anymore. We want to run a living monastery. The monks themselves. Yeah. How about that? Amazing. This is Catholic Mass in the Buddha Hall, City of 10,000 Buddhas. Over 100 people from the City of 10,000 Buddhas took part as observers, right? But there they were, learning about Catholic Mass. Father Cyprian, Father James Bach. We took a day trip to Abhayagiri Forest Monastery. What a great visit that was. Ajahn Pasano, the abbot of Abhayagiri, originally a Canadian, went to Thailand and was able to become an abbot for 12 years of a monastery in Thailand, speaking Thai, coming from a little tiny town north of Edmonton, believe it or not. There's Chinwei Shi and Father Michael again. There's Father Michael. He's now a Ronin. He's a Yunushrei, Sung, Clouds and Water monk. We gave him an offer to come to CTDB and cultivate. He said he might take it up. He's seriously considering. There's Ajahn Pasano and Reverend Master Berthold from Shasta Abbey, a monk who's been in robes for over 20 years. This is the one that looks like Santa Claus, is Father Lawrence Morey from Gethsemane Abbey in Kentucky, where Thomas Merton was. The one on the right is Master Jisho, who's the oldest Buddhist among all the Buddhists present, oldest in robes. Father Cyprian Concilio, who is a good friend of the Berkeley Monastery. He recorded my song, Dedication of Merit, as Compassionate and Wise. You've probably heard him sing if you've been here for long enough. And he being Italian, Father Cyprian's Italian. Well, wait, not yet. I'm ahead of myself. I know nobody's perfect. What can you do? So, this is David Bach, ordained in 1962. Talk about that. He was a cook for 25 years, and then an abbot. On your right is Dharma Master Ajahn Jyoti Palo, good friend of the Berkeley Monastery. Here's Father Michael again. Here, isn't this gentle-looking person? Kind-hearted? Look at the kindness. That's what happens when you're a monk for a long time. This is Ajahn Yatiko, who was ordained for 20 years, 17 of them in Thailand. Just came to America 3 years ago and really likes interfaith. He enjoyed so much getting energized by the Catholics, and his good energy brought them alive as well. This is Father William Skudlaric. He's the senior of everyone. 1959, he became a monk. Plays the cello in the St. Cloud Symphony Orchestra. Okay, how interesting. Where does he work now? He was in the Vatican for the last 6 years, but now he's back home. Where is home? Japan. How does he teach? In Portuguese. What? There's a population of Brazilians in Japan who go to Japan because they do the hard work, basically the menial labor. They tend to be dark-skinned. They're Catholics. They speak Portuguese. The Catholic Church says, we got to send them a father, send them a priest. They sent Father William. He speaks Portuguese, Japanese, Italian, German, and English, and plays cello. What a happy soul. Okay, this is what I want to show you. This is called Italian body speak. Look at the hands. And that's one sentence. That's all one sentence. Prego. Okay. You can take that. There you go. He's back. There's Goshunshir. This is Father Cyprian, Father William. Here's the gang, the group, all together. Aren't the robes interesting to see all the different colors? So this is Abhayagiri. That's a former bomb shell turned into a bell. So swords into plowshares. This is Reverend Kusala from Los Angeles. He plays a mean ukulele. He plays a really good harmonica, and he will if you encourage him at all. And just out it comes. What mischief is he up to? And by the way, Ajahn Guna, for those of you who don't know him, the 2 walks to feed the hungry were very successful. There's another one happening today, down in LA. So San Jose and San Francisco, both walks. CTTB sent 50 people. I was told that the San Francisco walk was mostly successful because of that young, energetic group that came, according to Ajahn Guna. So, do we have a Wi-Fi signal in here? There is one? Where were those Facebook? Whose page had the pictures of the girls? Who was it? Jinjing Shi. Let's see if, just for fun. I want you to see those really nice pictures. Jin Jing. Let's see if she comes up. Yes. Yes, got it. Yeah, here they are. Oh, are you sure? Was that maybe there's more. Here we go. No. Is there more? Let's see. There were a bunch of them posted, and they were really good photos. Here they are, right here. Yes. Good energy from the girls' school. So we've kind of strayed from the Buddhist Catholic, but here we go. That was the Jing Jie, right? All right. Back to our slideshow. Okay. I really like this picture. Brother Lawrence, he was the youngest. He's only been a monk for 2 years. But he served at Gethsemane Abbey. Their practice is what? Ora et labora, prayer and work. Ora et labora. That's how they live their day, prayer and work. There's Ajahn Jotipalo. Father David Bach, who has a wicked sense of humor. Oh my goodness. Is he a happy soul? He was kind of the Zen master. He came up with more wisdom per sentence than almost anybody. Jin Yong Shi. Reverend Jisho. Kusala making a point. This is Brother Luke Devine, who's a student at the GTU. He was one of my students for Buddhist Christian Dialogue. That's how we first met. Here's a good Monks in the West photo, right? Sharing a story and a laugh. Getting together for the group shot, horsing around. There's the shot. This is at the guest building at CTDB. Here's a ground squirrel. He just popped up and I wanted to get him in there. He's a citizen of the city of 10,000 Buddhas. Hello there. Vote for Prop 37. My name is John Squirrel and I approve of this message. This is called Monks Sandals. Sandal Talk. You thought I was kidding? When the sandals hit the pavement. There we go. Size 11s? Is that what somebody said? Conversations. You see the humor. It was really wonderful to sit together with. We had a total precept age of 360 years and robes. Okay, we came down on Friday to Incarnation Monastery up in the Berkeley Hills, which is home for the new Camaldolese Benedictine monks. And here we are for the group photo. Short, about 4 Buddhists, but still strong in spirit. This is the cross painted by the crucifix in their sanctuary, painted by Father Arthur, who's a wonderful painter. If you look carefully, somebody who has good eyes, this is New Camaldolese Monastery in Big Sur, and here's Berkeley. Now that's geographically incorrect, but it's a beautiful painting, right? Here's the Big Sur Monastery, and that's their 2 houses. Beautiful painting. And then we went to the GTU to meet with President Jim Donahue and let him know that the Buddhists and Catholics are hanging out together. Here we are. Then we came down to the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery, by golly, for lunch and a photograph. Some familiar faces. It was a really nice lunch. What's that? Ascetic. Yeah, not really. It was way too delicious to be ascetic. And then it was time to say goodbye. And I think these are good photos of the brotherhood shared among these. Let's keep going. There we go. Shared by these folks. Oh, now we got to go back. The friendship and the obvious caring. There we are. There's a good. There. That's the way to do it. Nice. And returning the hujang. There we are. Oh, sorry. Make you seasick here, all this back and forth, huh? This is not intentional. I have to iron this out before we take this on the road. There we are. This is Brother Gregory Perrin. He was the organizer for the Catholics. And his job, he's in a monastery in Lisle, Illinois, outside of Chicago. He is the infirmarian. What's an infirmarian? Somebody who works in the infirmary. What does he do? He takes old monks back and forth to the hospital all day long. The average age in his community is 78. Average. The youngest is 47 or something, and there's 2 who are under 50. And that's it. Everybody else is aging. Big problem among the Catholics, for sure. Goodbye to Father Cyprian. Goodbye to Brother Lawrence. Goodbye to everybody. So leave already. How can we miss you if you won't go away? And that's it. So that's just wanted to share with everybody. Oh, wait. Let's see. There is a little more. There we go. Okay, so thank you for sitting through this with me. And as I said at the start, this is really good news, that this kind of thing can happen. And most people don't know about it. It's not in people's imagination that monks would get together for this kind of thing. And come on. Oh, it's not doing it. Yeah. So the fact that the monks and nuns come together to simply for the goodness that our cultivation brings us and the goodness for the world, I think, is pretty exciting. It hasn't been done before, and I mean, we really have a sense of being pioneers in this dialogue. And the Catholics are going through difficulties, and the Buddhists are so new that we haven't made all the mistakes yet. So we are mutually feeding each other. And the line that I like best from the Catholics, what came from the now Bishop of Salt Lake City, Father John Wester, when he said, "Who would have imagined how joyful that we Catholics, through our contact with the Buddhists, have rediscovered our very own contemplative traditions." It's the Buddhists who are teaching the Catholics about meditation and contemplation that they've had for centuries, but paved over for various reasons and forgot about. So now that they meet the Buddhists and meditate together, they go, we have the Jesus prayer. It works great. We can enter samadhi with the Jesus prayer. So that's